All right. So, good evening, everyone. Welcome to this Golden Jubilee weekly evening lecture on power of failure. I welcome each one of you to have come for attending this weekly talk. I would now request Mr. Mukesh Jain to welcome the guest and say a few words.
Good
Mr.
evening.
Jain.
Good evening. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of ISTD Delhi Chapter and all my team, I welcome Major General Dhir, CEO and Director, Alphabet Teletec Private Limited, to this evening, and I am grateful that he has accepted our invitation and giving a wonderful, rather powerful lecture on power of failure. So welcome Dr. General Dhir to this evening. We are having our President, National Past President, Dr. Benwet. We welcome you, sir. We are having our very senior member, Dr. G.P. Rao, Deepak Bharara ji, and many more senior member here. I welcome everybody to this evening, and I request Pratima ji to please carry on the program. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jain. Okay. So, when Major General Dhir, talked about this topic, I was so excited because this topic is so close to my heart. So, friends, today we all want to be successful, achieve great heights in whatever we are pursuing. People are lauded when they achieve success right from the childhood. There are so many expectations from a child that he or she should be number one. And when the success as expected the person doesn't get, then the person is devastated and the self-esteem just slides down. It is so important to remember that one will stumble and fall, will experience disaster and triumph, sometime in the same day. But like a hangover, neither triumph nor disaster last forever. They both pass. Someone has rightly said that the seed of success is sown in the failure. I personally believe that failure is not misfortune. Misfortune is getting defeated by failure. So with these few words, I welcome General Dhir to this evening talk once again, and I'm very delighted to introduce him to the audience. Major General N.K. Dhir is CEO and Director, Alphabet Teletec Private Limited, a company in the business of corporate training and consulting. He's a war veteran, thought leader, and a master trainer. During Indo-Pak War of 1971, he won laurels for his contribution. Even after leaving the army, he has been actively involved in leadership training for higher commanders in the military, public sector, and private sector companies. He's an MTech from IIT Delhi, has been closely associated with quality movements in India, and has represented many countries in ISO meetings. He's an assessor, trainer, and counselor for Quality Council of India. Major General Dhir is a visiting faculty at IP University and IIT Delhi. General Dhir is a speaker at Lal Bahadur Shastri National Academy for Administration in Missouri and College of Defense Management, Secunderabad. He's a regular speaker at various national and international conferences and events. He was awarded Kanpur Ratna by Conference of Intellectuals for his outstanding contribution. He's a past national champion in yachting and was awarded colors in gliding from College of Military Engineering, Pune. He has been actively associated with ISTD Delhi Chapter for over 15 years. So with this introduction, I welcome General Dhir once again to you, and over to you now.
Thank you so much. And let me just get into my screen sharing and then.
Yeah.
Okay, are we there? Can we see it?
Yes, yes, we can see.
Thank you so much, Pratima, and good afternoon, friends. It is indeed a privilege to be amongst friends, to be with you all today to share my views about a topic. But I must thank Mukesh and Pratima to make it happen and give me an opportunity to be with you all today. Let me start right away. There is, give me a minute. Yeah, I'm going to start with scenario one, which I have chosen to call a wish list. Like Pratima said, it is not uncommon for a student in the higher classes to be wishing, and his parents and probably his teachers also, that he should work hard, get high grades, and hopefully join the IIT thereafter, and notwithstanding Trump, perhaps go to the United States and do his MBA from a fancy university, take up a job in a multinational company, and rise over there, then hopefully be a startup and make his million, have a huge house, get married, have children, have fancy cars, and hopefully live happily thereafter, even with his mother-in-law. Having said so, it may not seem fancy because I'm going to share with you the scenario two. It is a case study of Karthik Rajaram. Karthik was born in South India, very good in studies, and as expected, he went to IIT Madras, did his engineering. Then he went to United States. And of course, he did his MBA from UCLA, got his first job with Sony Pictures, did well over there. Then he had his hand at trying at a startup in UK and made his million. Of course, he bought a 5-bedroom house, got married to a pretty young Tamilian lady, and had 3 children, fancy cars, and was hopefully living happily with his mother-in-law. That's where the script ends. So far, he's following the script. Actually, having tasted blood and success, something went wrong with him. He lost his balance, he became arrogant, he became unpredictable, so much so that his last employer used this word that he was unpredictable. He lost his job, he had to sell his house, get into a 3-bedroom house, and then came 2008. He had invested heavily into stock exchange and he lost heavily. All this was shattering for him. And then one day he did one thinkable. He picked up a gun, killed his wife and 3 children and mother-in-law, and killed himself. 5 murders and a suicide. It was a splash all over in the Bay Area. Clinical Institute, California Institute of Clinical Psychology studied his case. It was well documented at that time. And then they said, after talking to people who were associated with him, they came to the conclusion that Karthik was programmed for success, but not trained for handling failure. That's what struck me. I was wondering who is offering programs for handling failure. IST doesn't. Nor do I. As a professional, I'm never invited to talk about handling failures. But that set me thinking and doing my work on it. So friends, welcome to my session on power of failure. Commencement speech is something like what we have the convocation address here in India. So when I was doing research for my work, I happened to go to the YouTube and look at the commencement speeches of Harvard and Stanford universities, elite institutions in America, perhaps worldwide. And I randomly got these 5-6 people. Steve Jobs, needs no introduction, co-founder of Apple. Tim Cook, the current CEO of Apple, phenomenal character who has made Apple into a corporate colossus and has made the company the most valuable company of $2 trillion in the world. Bill Gates, of course, co-founder of Microsoft. Mark Zuckerberg, co-founder of Facebook. Oprah Winfrey, the richest black, or shall we say African-American woman in America. A billionaire in her own right, a media mogul. She has been running a very successful program called Oprah Winfrey Show for 25 years. J.W. Rowling needs no introduction. most successful author for Harry Potter. You can visit the YouTube and listen to their presentation or speeches. Now, when I did that, I found their speeches were phenomenal. They all spoke very well. They were, in fact, entertaining, inspiring, and motivating. And children, the students, as well as their parents, loved the presentation. But there was some more observation that I had. All of them are highly successful people, billionaires in their own rights, made an impact worldwide. But none of them graduated from these Ivy League institutions. So one reduction, you don't have to go to Ivy League institution to become a highly successful person. Quite a few of them are famous dropouts as well. We do know them. Interesting part is they all talked a lot about failures. Whose failure? Their own failures before they hit the success button. And what is interesting is only highly successful people often talk about their failures, not ordinarily successful people. They gloss over their failure because they know the power of failure, these successful guys. Some more notable failures, let's have a look at. Albert Einstein, we do know he couldn't make it to Zurich College of Engineering. Thomas Edison's famous story of trying to light a lamp, and when he couldn't light for 1,000 times till he had to move ahead. Abraham Lincoln is, of course, a very famous failure. And if everyone knows that he failed in business at the age of 22. Again, he was defeated in a legislative election at the age of 23. Failed in business again at 24. Sweetheart died at the age of 26. Nervous breakdown at 27. What else could he expect? Congressional race he lost at 34. Senatorial race at the age of 45. Couldn't become VP. And then senatorial race again he lost at the age of 49. And finally he became the president at 52. A very often quoted scenario. Walt Disney. We all are familiar with Walt Disney. Let me see if I can play a video for you all. Just a minute, I think. I need to share screen. Now I go to this. Now I come to this.
It is not shared.
Not shared?
No, sir.
Okay, okay. Let me see again. This is with Zoom. Now let's see. It is. Please correct me if you don't share it. Let me know so that I move ahead.
Now it's okay, sir.
बाद में फोन कर रहा हूँ मीटिंग में। Okay. Walt Disney failed over and over again. So did Beatles. They were not really accepted initially. Friends, I had made this presentation for an audience in the United States, so I had chosen these cases of international repute. But there are some notable Indian failures as well. Mahatma Gandhi, father of the nation, he wasn't exactly a very great lawyer when he started his career. He went to South Africa, and that is when he was thrown out of a running train. That was a turning moment when he joined politics. His start wasn't exactly running a smooth ride all the time. While his crowning glory was, of course, the independence of the country, but a lot of people say his greatest failure was partition of the country. Amitabh Bachchan, we all know he's the longest surviving star in the Bollywood. But initially, All India Radio didn't think his voice was good, nor did the great people who were hiring stars thought he was too good because he was too lanky. He had failure after failure in movies. Not only that, even after having become successful, his ABCL failed. He was close to bankruptcy till KBC happened. Ratan Tata, iconic figure in the country, and rightly so. But when he was first given the charge, became the in charge of the Tata board, his two companies that he ran, including Nelco, they failed. In fact, even Nano failed. Some of his decision of acquiring companies outside India were not really considered very successful. Dr. APJ Kalam, supposed to be the people's president, very respected person. He wanted to become a pilot. He failed. He couldn't go over there, coming from a poor family. But he is often quoted an instance when he was the project director and he had to put the ISRO's the mission director. The computer told them not to launch the flight. He overrode that and launched the flight. Instead of going in the air, it went into the Bay of Bengal. And he quotes this example everywhere that Professor Dhawan at that time took the press conference and took the blame on himself. And next time when they were successful, he passed on to Abdul J. Kalam to go and take the press conference. Failure. Narayana Murthy, another great corporate stalwart. He first started his career, as you might be knowing, at IIM as a research scholar or something like that. Thereafter, he started his company, which failed in a year and a half. Then he took up a job in Pasli Computers, and then he left, and then his success ride started. I'm going to share with you some failure codes with a reason. I have missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I have lost almost 300 games. 26 times I have been trusted to take the game-winning shot and I missed. I have failed over and over and over again, and that's why I succeed. Legendary basketball player Michael Jordan. Failure is not falling down, but refusing to get up. That's a Chinese proverb. Failure is as good as long as it does not become a habit. Success or failure is caused more by mental attitude than by mental capacity. I have highlighted few aspects in red because in my presentation, I'm going to be referring to them. This is a very important quote. J.W. Rowling says, some failure in life is inevitable. It is impossible to live without failing at something unless you live so cautiously that you might as well have not lived at all, in which case you have failed by default. Now, don't get me wrong. I am not glorifying failure. There's nothing glamorous or romantic about failure. It is terrible. It's a shattering experience. We all have experienced it, and we don't jump with joy when we fail. But friends, it is inevitable. Because nobody has ever learned how to ride a bike without a bruised knees. We've done that, been there. Now, what is a failure? Every failure is a loss of some kind. Loss of opportunity. Not achieving your goal is a loss again. But there are a variety of failure. You can fail in a game. You can fail in a business. You can fail in relationship. You can fail in doing whatever you are doing. And each failure does not hurt the same way. In fact, each failure has a different dimension and it varies hugely on the person concerned. Then your failure is experienced collectively as a team, as a family, as a group. In that case, we are worried about what is the consequences of that failure. In all cases, we are wanting to know what to do next. Friends, there is no one size fits all solution because every situation is unique and is different. Now let's see what is success. The reverse of failure is success. And here is a bit of a flippant definition of success, but it is very illustrative. At the age 4, success is not peeing in your pants. At 12 is having friends. At 18, having driving lessons. At 25, getting married. 35, having money. At 50, having more money. 60, still being married. 65, having driving license. 70 is having friends. And when you are close to 80, success is not peeing in your pants. So every time you are looking for a success, life hasn't ended. The success is waiting for you to happen. Success, easy definition, is a progressive realization of worthy goals. All these which we talked about were worthy goals. What's the measure of success? It is the ability to bounce back, not staying where you are. There's a story of an athlete, Dresden. She was running a 600-meter race and she was expected to win. She was running and she was running really good. Then suddenly she fell down and she was the favorite. Guess what happened? She got up, ran and won the race. In a competitive athletics, it is unique. It is amazing. But the message is loud and clear. Fall is all right, but lying down there is not all right. One of the quotes that I shared. World War II is a glorious example of collective failure and then bouncing back. Allied troops, that is allied countries, Britain, Canada, in fact, even India part of that, later on United States and Soviet Union at that time, they were losing. When Hitler and invaded Europe and Japan came from the other side and Italy in Europe, they were winning all through. They won the battles, but Allies won the war because they learned from it, they got up from it, and they won. How does one react to failure? We all have had failure and each one of us reacts differently. But chances are you could be experiencing these feelings. You could be sad, angry, guilty, disbelief, shock. What the hell has happened? You may even say life is not fair. And people may even give up. Or others may say, no, withdraw, make action plan, and they resolve to win. And this is not all. You could have many other ways to react to your failure. But one thing seems clear. In all situations of failure, there will be an element of sadness. And what is sadness? Sadness is actually the emotional pain which is caused by loss of something or someone special. Let's say if you have a beautiful flower vase which was given to you by a gift by someone near and dear to you, and neighbor's child comes and breaks it off. You put up a brave front and say it doesn't matter, but it matters to you. It's a loss. Loss of an opportunity, not getting your promotion, not getting a contract is a loss. Losing someone near and dear one is a shattering experience. No wonder worldwide there's a concept of mourning. Sadness can take various forms, starting from grief, sorrow, rejection, melancholy, despair. But if you can't handle it, you could even get into depression. You may go to the doctor and nothing will work. Now, when somebody is sad, what happens to him? There's no enthusiasm. He's not wanting to go to a party or watch a movie. Body metabolism slows down and you withdraw. You are mourning the loss and you are wanting to figure out how the life will unfold again. How to cope with sadness, because that's the starting point of failure. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, a Swedish American psychiatrist, worked with terminally ill people in Chicago hospital in late 60s. She wrote a book called On Death and Dying, which was the first time somebody had addressed the topic which was generally considered morbid and it was not addressed to. It was a runaway success. It tells people thinking. She didn't end over there. Along with her fellow writer, David Kessler, she wrote another book called On Grief and Grieving, Finding the Meaning of Grief Through 5 Stages of Loss. Very well written. Now it is called uh, Elizabeth Ross Model. Inspired by that, I'm sharing with you 7 stages of sadness. They are shock and denial, pain and guilt, anger, withdrawal and reflection, the upward turn, reconstruction and working through, acceptance and hope. Now, point to note, all this is not happening linearly. Some people may have all, some may not have any of these, some may skip some of them, some may react altogether differently. Let's see what happens in shock and denial. Your reaction to failure could be of disbelief. You don't believe that you could lose. It was yours for you to pick up. Now, when you deny the reality of failure, you are actually protecting yourself emotionally with this shock that you are experiencing. Then when you have got over the shock, you really experience the pain. And you got to experience it. There's no shortcut in that. And then guilt feeling could be coming on you for something that you did or you did not do. Then, of course, you could be angry. Angry about what? About the outcome, sure, and angry with yourself or for the rest of the world. Then you could be getting involved in the blame game. So-and-so is responsible for it. If I had done that, I would have done this and so on. Now a stage comes when there's you withdraw and you reflect. You now realize the failure has occurred. Now it is beyond the retrieval. So that is when you start reflecting as what to do, not that it has happened, what is to do next. Turnaround comes at this stage, which is called the upward turn, at which you come to terms with reality. You have accepted now that it has occurred, but you are not clear what to do about it. Next stage comes, this is what I have added, reconstruction and work through. Now when you start looking for plan of action as to how to overcome the state that you are in, the reconstruction starts. After that comes accepting the reality, and then you are hopeful of facing the future. Power of failure really comes from reconstruction and working through phase. At this stage, what happens is you were wondering what went wrong and what went right, because something did go right after all. Then you also start wondering what next. Now that it has happened, what do I do next? You are now looking for various options that you have, and what could be the one based on the resources or the capabilities that you have, what is it that you could commit to? That's when you make an action plan. Only that action plan to which you can commit yourself and your resources. Things happen only when you act on that. Of course, when you work on this, you will need emotional and resources support as well. Next step is, or the final is, learning from failure. We also realize at that time in a race there is only one winner, and every day is not Sunday. Even when you are not the winner, you are still not the loser. That can happen. No, we need to ask ourselves a question: have we done our best? And when we learn from our mistakes, that adds to our experience, and experience comes very handy when you are living the process of life. Another thing comes very, very important by my way of looking at things. With failure comes humility and perseverance to do it over and over again. We all know the famous story of King Bruce and the spider. We all grew up about the famous Scottish king, King the Bruce of Scotland, who was defeated by King of England 6 times. That's when he went into a cave and he saw the spider weaving making his web, and he also failed 6 times. 7th time he succeeded, and as they say, he came out and fought the battle 7th time and won. Now, let me summarize so far. Where is the power of failure? It comes in acquiring the ability to bounce back. When you fall flat, you don't lie over there, you get up. Perseverance. Rome was not built in a day. Success is never built in a day. This is very important. Losing your arrogance and developing humility and acquiring the ability to change. You are wanting to change the world, but we need to change ourselves, our skill set, our strategy for getting the success. Here is the riddle. I am your constant companion. I am your greatest asset or heaviest burden. I will push you up to success or down to disappointment. I am at your command. Half the thing you might just as well be turned over to me, for I can do them quickly, correctly, and profitably. I am easily managed. Just be firm with me. Those who are great, I have made them great. Those who are failure, I have made them failure. I'm not a machine, though I work with the precision of a machine and the intelligence of a person. You can run me for profit or you can run me for ruin. Show me how you want it done. Educate me, train me, lead me, reward me, and I will then do it automatically. I am your servant. Who am I? Any guesses? Well, answer is habit. It is a habit. First you make a habit, then habit makes you. And anything that you do repeatedly becomes your habit. Now, what will be your reaction to success or failure will also depend on a habit which we generally call attitude. Attitude is also a habit. How you react to the success or failure is largely dependent on your attitude. And remember, attitude is a choice. Let me share a story with you. Story is of a manager, restaurant manager called Jerry. He is always in a good mood. When somebody would ask him how he is doing, he would always say, if I were better, I would be twins. Many of the waiters at the restaurant quit their job when he did in order to follow him. Why? Because Jerry was a natural motivator. If an employee was having a bad day, Jerry was there telling the employee how to look at the positive side of the situation. Seeing the side, I went up to him and asked him, I don't quite get it. No one can be positive all the time. How do you do it? Chances are you all also wondering, how can you be positive all the time? His answer was, each morning I wake up and say to myself, I have two choices today. I can choose to be in good mood or I can choose to be in bad. I always choose to be in good mood. Each time something bad happens, I can choose to be victim or I can choose to learn from it. We will come back to this slide again. Next, but it is not always that easy. Jerry's response was, life is all about choices. When you cut away all the junk, every situation is a choice. Several years later, I heard that Jerry did something which you are never supposed to do in restaurant business. He left the back door of the restaurant open. And then what happened? In the morning, he was robbed. And they wanted all the money. While Jerry was opening the safe, his hand shaking with nervousness, slipped off. Robbers panicked and shot him. Luckily, Jerry was found quickly and rushed to hospital. After 18 hours of surgery and weeks of intensive care, Jerry was released from the hospital with fragments of bullets still in his body. I saw Jerry about 6 months after the accident. When I asked him how he was, his reply was, you guessed it right. If I were any better, I would be twin. Want to see my scars? I declined to see his wound, but I asked him what had gone through his mind as the robbery took place. His answer is good. The first thing that went through my mind was that I should have locked the back door. Remember I said we'll come back to this slide? Learning. He's not posing as a victim. No. Then after they shot me, I lay on the floor. I remembered I had two choices. I could choose to live or I could choose to die. I chose to live. Weren't you scared? Paramedics were great. They kept me telling everything is going to be fine. But when they took me into the ER, I saw the expression on the faces of doctors and nurses and I got scared because I could read in their eyes that he's a dead man. What did you do? Well, there was a big nurse shouting questions at me. She asked if I was allergic to anything. I replied, yes. The doctors and nurses stopped working as they wanted the reply. I took a deep breath and yelled, bullets. Over their laughter, I told them, I am choosing to live. Please operate on me as if I am alive and not dead. Jerry lived thanks to the skill of his doctor, but also because of his amazing attitude. I learned from him that every day you have a choice to either enjoy your life or hate it. The only thing that is truly yours, that no one can control or take away from you, is your attitude. Now, irony is, attitude is often talked about. We have the case studies of Albert Einstein, Thomas Edison. We talked about it earlier. And Colonel Sanders as well, who was no colonel. He was a middle-aged guy who was wanting to sell his recipe of chicken frying till he opened up his KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken. They never gave up. Failure after failure. These case studies are of people who had problems, but they still succeeded. Beethoven, great classical Western musician, he was deaf. Milton had turned blind, yet he wrote some of the finest poetry about nature. Roosevelt was a phenomenal case study. During Second World War, polio afflicted, he was in wheelchair. If you have seen the movie called Pearl Harbor, in that movie, once the Japanese attack, he has all the important people and he's wanting a quick reaction. When he hears the response from people saying, I can't, he's making an effort to get up. Somebody wants to help him. He said, no, leave me alone. And he shouts, don't tell me I can't. Of course, it is hard for a polio afflicted person to get up. But message was clear that you can't give up. Get closer home. Rabindranath Tagore was the only Nobel laureate who never went to a university. He raised his own university. Amitabh Bachchan. We talked about his failures earlier. Nandan Nelikani. They say he couldn't go to. Somebody is raising hands. What does it mean? 1 plus 6 raises hand. Can we wait till the end? Okay. They say he couldn't go to IIM. Thank God for that. Because he was a co-founder of Infosys. Ravinder Jain. What about him? He couldn't see, but he produced a fine, very fine music. Sudha Chandran. He's still dancing, though he lost her feet. Do you know who is Fauja Singh? Well, I'll tell you. He's 109 years old, Sardarji living in England. And he's a marathon runner. Marathon is not 26 kilometers, but 26 miles. And he is still a celebrity. Mankor. Do you know who is Mankor? Let me see. I won't try that. Mankor is called Chandigarh Ka Chamatkar. This year in March, she was given a prize by the President of India for what is called Nari Shakti, because she is 103 years old and she is a runner too. That's not important. Important is she started her career at the age of 93. And these two people, they defied the age. Now let me see if I can show you this video. This is important if it does. Please tell me if you can hear. Is it okay?
We cannot see your screen.
Somebody respond. Can you see it?
Sir, screen is not visible.
We can hear you.
Not visible. So it means a screen sharing is not there. Let me just do it.
But we can't see your screen.
Can't, no, we'll do it. Just a minute. Now we will come to this. Now we will come to this. Let's see if it is.
Now we can.
Let's see. Tell me if it is working now.
Yes, we can see the screen now.
What is the message from this? Pullman, again polio afflicted, again his string breaks. But the sentence that he used, that was actually lot more philosophical. He says, our job is to make music with what is left. So if you look around, we all are in the center stage of our life and we are playing the violin of our life and something in us is broken. Are we playing it with power and passion? If we are, that demonstrates the power of attitude, nothing else. Because it is not a perfect world. Never will be a perfect situation. We will never get the perfect scenario to work. It is our attitude will carry us through. Can you change your attitude? Good news, yes, you can. It is trainable and learnable. But there's a bad news as well. Learning is not easy. It is iterative, time consuming, and you need to work on it over a period of time. You use it, the concept of self-directed learning means you decide what you want to change, how you want to change, what pace you want to do. Before I come to self-directed learning a little more, let me share with you what I have chosen to call Dhir's laws of learning. Feel free, if you don't find any value in this, call it Dhir's folly. I'll be happy. My first law of learning is law of necessity. You will learn only if there is a great felt need. Yes, you heard me right. If you don't feel the need to learn, you are there only a passenger. You are only marking time. Second one is law of readiness. You are not ready to learn unless you are gone through that. That is, the more you learn, the more you realize how little you know. Friends, one lifetime is grossly inadequate to learn even a fraction of what is worth learning. When you go through this law, you acquire the desired humility of a learner. Third law is a tongue twister, what I call the law of unlearning. Unless you learn to unlearn what you may have learned earlier, you cannot learn what you need to learn today. Yes, if you have a glass full of water and you want to drink milk in that, you got to throw the water out. Problem is not getting brilliant ideas in your organization. Problem is getting rid of silly ideas. Fourth, and the most critical law is law of action. Unless you learn to act on what you have learned, you haven't learned anything at all. We in ISTD are not in the business of intellectual entertainment. We are in the business of helping people to develop themselves. They will develop themselves only if they act on that. For that, I am going to urge you to resign your membership of NATO. No. NATO is not North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Even India is not member of that, and thank God for that. But chances are you are member of an organization which I call NATO stands for No Action Talk Only. Friends, now I come to the learning methodology. I'm not using any imported, I'm not using Bloom's taxonomy or thing like that. Very indigenous learning methodology I'm sharing with you. First is Shravan, listening. I hope you are listening to me. Second is Chintan, that listening to set you thinking. If you are ready for learning, you will be applying your mind and you'll be thinking about it. If that excites you, maybe you will do some adhyan, study further, maybe not. And then comes Manan. This is the crucial state. Manan is when you are contemplating and reflecting. For Manan, typically you will have Manthan, churning. You remember the famous story of Sagar Manthan. What happens out of Manthan? Halahal, wish comes out. When you do the internal churning, some unpleasant thoughts will also come. And then karma. Fourth law of learning, unless you will act on what you have decided, you will not achieve anything. Fourth, last one is abhyas, practice. What you practice, you become really good at. If you practice abusing, my God, you will be a great abuser. If you find fault with everything, you will find fault with nature, sure. But if you are doing practice with yourself, you are wanting to change yourself and change your attitude or your habit to face the failures, then you will be doing it over and over again. They say if you do something for 21 days, it becomes your habit. What's so great about 21 days? Who decided 21 days? Actually speaking, it was the surgeon who gave the artificial limb. They observed that people got used to their artificial limbs in 21 days. Lot more research has been done on it. Today they say your habit will depend upon the habit you are changing or acquiring and the person itself. And it can take anything up to 66 days. In India, there is a concept called mandal. Mandal means 40 days. So it is generally believed that if you do something for 40 days, you will be a different person. I am coming back to J.W. Rowling. She was a single mother with a failed marriage. All that she knew was how to write, and she wasn't a successful writer. She was rejected by 12 editors at different publishing houses. Then what happened, one day she approached Bloomsbury Publishing. Their editor was Barry Cunningham. He took the manuscript, he passed it on to his MD, Nigel Newton, and that's where the thing rested. One day, when Nigel Newton was at home and working on something, his daughter Alice came to him, and she was bothering Newton for something or the other, and Nigel for something or the other. Nigel gave Alice that the manuscript that J.W. Rowling had given. Alice took it upstairs, and after some time she came running. He says, "Dad, I want more of this. I have never heard or read anything of this kind." There was a twinkle, they say, in Nigel's eyes. And that's what made the success story begin for Rowling. It was not a fancy or a highly erudite editor who decided it. Her fate was decided by an 11-year-old daughter, a girl. So there is a great element of chance in success, as also in failure. If you read the book called Outlier by Malcolm Gladwell, came many years ago, Runaway Success, he said chance plays a great role. If you look at all the high-tech czars today, they were all born between 1950 and 1955. The other way around is also true. Hundreds and thousands of people born in the beginning of last century perished in the First World War and later on the Second World War. No fault of theirs. And if you read the book Good to Great by Professor Jim Collins, who studied the great company, he had given the example of all the leaders that he talked to. They had a great deal of humility, and they all attributed it to a very non-fashionable word, luck. Now I've come down to a book called Success and Luck, written again by Professor Robert H. Frank, Good Fortune and Myth of Meritocracy. He, in this book, has gone at length to say, we take great pride on our success and pack our bag. We are highly meritorious and talented. Think again. There are far too many people who are smarter than us, and they are not in the limelight. They haven't even achieved the kind of success that you and I have achieved. If you notice, the last year or this year in the beginning, when Padma Shri awards were given by Government of India, they identified such people who've done phenomenal work outside the gaze of press and people. So friends, one message I want to give is, live humbly. There are great people around. Before I close, I come back to the case of Karthik Rajaram. This is what California Institute of Clinical Psychology had said, program for success, not trained for handling failure. I think they made a mistake. There was an error in their thing. Karthik was not trained to handle success. It was not the failure. There is a saying, if you want to test a man's character, give him power and success. My friend Karthik, when he tasted success too soon and too much, it went to his head. His behavior became unpredictable. He became arrogant. He thought life is only walking on billiards table, which unfortunately it is not. So he actually did not know how to handle his success. That's why he was a failure in his failure. So I believe that when you have success, attribute a lot of it to your chance or luck, and keep your feet firmly on the ground and head firmly on your shoulders. To conclude, some action points or takeaway that I will share, which is summary of my presentation. Always plan for success. Sure. When successful, handle it gracefully. Don't let it go to your head. Failure may occur. In fact, it could occur. You must have ability to bounce back. You don't keep lying on the floor. Learning from failure. Every failure provides an opportunity for learning. Attitude of leaders is the key enabler for success. And Rome was not built in a day. Success will not be built by snap of your finger. You got to keep loving at it. Don't forget the case of Abraham Lincoln. This I want to highlight at length. Lose arrogance and develop humility. And don't forget to learn the ability to change yourself. With this, I come to end of my presentation. If there are any questions, I'll be willing to handle it. Take it. I have given my mobile number and my email ID. Should you like to contact me for any further discussion on this topic or anything else, I'll be too delighted to interact with you. You can even take liberty of giving me feedback of how did you find the presentation today. Any question?
General Dhir, we will be, we are recording.
Sorry, I can't hear you. Somebody has to tell me what is.
Entire
Sorry?
talk. So we can share the link. We will be sharing the link of this talk with the participants.
Okay, okay, that's fine. That's fine.
So we have recorded it.
Very good.
Yeah.
So if there are no more questions, then I will say thank you so much. It was a wonderful opportunity given by you all, particularly Mukesh and Pratima, and I enjoyed every moment of being with you all. Thank you so much, and may God bless you.
Thank you so much. Now I request Sucharita Madam to give a formal vote of thanks to General Dhir.
Thank you, Pritimaji. A heartfelt thank you to Major General N.K. Dhir for the session on power of failure. I would like to quote the... Hello?
Carry on.
Right at the start, you pointed out the importance of the talking out about failure. You gave a lot of examples on rightly successful people who failed in their life, but they had right attitude, which made all differences. Thank you, sir. We are all inspired by the great words of you. Further, I would like to thank you, our program director, Ms. Pritima Kaushal, for organizing this beautiful session and making this happen. I would like to thank you, the IT team at ISTD, and all the technical support during the session. I would express my gratitude to our respected chairman, ISTD, Mr. Mukesh Kumar Jain, for his constant encouragement and guidance for conducting such inspiring sessions. Thank you all participants for your enthusiastic participation and attending this session. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, General Dhir. Thank you so much for coming. It was really enjoyable. Very nice.